Relax and take notes while I take totes. Relax and take notes while I take totes of the marijuana smoke. Relax and take notes while I take totes. Relax and take notes while I take totes of the marijuana smoke.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Audacity Podcast. I am the man on the street, and today what we're doing is celebrating this day. What day is it? It's the national holiday for Martin Luther King Jr. Yes, we celebrated his birthday on yesterday, but we're celebrating his holiday today. And what I want to do is just put together a video that I call a Dream Deferred. And why did I call it a Dream Deferred? Hey, you have to watch the video to get what I'm talking about. But let's talk about Martin Luther King. He was one of the most iconic persons that ever walked the earth. I mean, his nonviolent movement, hey, it changes a lot of things in good ways and also bad ways, if you think about it. Because being nonviolent, a lot of people got killed. A lot of people got killed that shouldn't have been killed if we had to use the same type of force that they were using against us. But that's just my opinion. And also, the I Have a Dream speech. Man, it's one of the most iconic speeches that was ever given by anyone, black or white. It's one of the speeches that's still being dissected today. Everybody comes away with something from that speech, in my opinion. It's a speech that you have to hear in its entirety, not in just snippets, but its entirety. So let the man on the street know down in the comments below what you think about my video that I put together, A Dream Deferred. So, are you ready? I know I am. So let's go.
It is difficult to say exactly how Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech would look today, as it was delivered in 1963 and addressed the specific issues and injustices of that time. However, it is likely that some of the themes and messages of the speech, such as the importance of racial equality and unity, would still be relevant today. It is also possible that the speech would address additional issues and concerns that have emerged in the years since it was first delivered, such as police brutality and discrimination against marginalized communities. The I Have a Dream speech, delivered by Martin Luther King Jr. on August 28, 1963, during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, had a significant impact on America. The speech, which called for an end to racial discrimination and the realization of a society where people are judged not by the color of their skin but by the content of their character, helped to galvanize the civil rights movement and inspire a renewed sense of hope and determination among African Americans and their allies. The speech also played a role in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which helped to end legal segregation and discrimination against African Americans. Additionally, the speech is widely considered to be one of the most powerful and influential speeches in American history, and it continues to be studied and referenced today as a powerful call for equality and justice. It's difficult to quantify exactly how much work is still left to be done to fully realize the vision of a truly equal society outlined in Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. However, there are several areas in which racial disparities and inequality continue to persist in America. Some examples include economic inequality. Black Americans continue to face significant disparities in income, wealth, and poverty. According to data from the U.S. Census Bureau, the median income for black households is about 60% of that for white households. Additionally, the poverty rate for black Americans is nearly twice that of white Americans. Education. Despite some progress, black students continue to face disparities in educational achievement and attainment. Black students are more likely to be suspended or expelled from school and are less likely to graduate from high school or attend college than their white peers. Health. Black Americans continue to face disproportionately high rates of chronic diseases, such as hypertension and diabetes, as well as higher rates of infant mortality. Additionally, the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the racial disparities in health outcomes, with black Americans experiencing higher rates of infection and death. Criminal justice. Black Americans are disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system and are more likely to be arrested, convicted, and sentenced to longer prison terms than white Americans. Housing and neighborhoods. Black Americans continue to face discrimination in housing and neighborhoods, with redlining and other forms of discrimination making it more difficult for black Americans to find affordable housing in safe, stable neighborhoods. These are just a few examples of the persistent racial disparities and inequality that continue to affect black Americans. It's important to note that the fight for civil rights and racial equality is ongoing and will require sustained effort and commitment from individuals, organizations, and government to address these issues. The government plays a critical role in addressing racial disparities and inequality in America. Some of the ways that the government can help to address these issues include enforcing civil rights laws. The government has a responsibility to enforce the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and other federal laws that protect the rights of minority groups, including Black Americans. This includes investigating complaints of discrimination and taking legal action against individuals and organizations that violate these laws. Providing funding for programs and services. The government provides funding for programs and services that help to address racial disparities and inequality. This includes funding for education, housing, healthcare, and criminal justice reform programs, among others. Implementing policies to address disparities. The government can also implement policies and regulations that address disparities in areas such as education, healthcare, and criminal justice. For example, policies that promote desegregation in schools and provide funding for programs that improve educational outcomes for minority students. Holding public officials accountable. The government has the power to hold public officials accountable for discrimination and other forms of misconduct that perpetuate racial disparities and inequality. Promoting diversity and inclusion. The government can also promote diversity and inclusion in its own workforce, as well as in the private sector, by implementing policies and practices that promote the hiring and promotion of people from underrepresented groups, including Black Americans. It's important to note that the government alone can't solve all the issues related to racial inequality and discrimination, but it has a crucial role to play in creating a more equal and just society. It's also important to mention that government policies and actions can have a significant impact on the lives of Black Americans, and it's crucial that government officials take an active role in addressing racial disparities and inequality. To achieve the dream of Martin Luther King Jr. as outlined in his I Have a Dream speech, several actions need to be taken by individuals, organizations, and government. Continuing to fight discrimination. Discrimination in all its forms, whether intentional or not, must be challenged and eliminated. Laws and policies should be put in place to ensure that all people are treated fairly and with dignity and that discrimination is not tolerated. Addressing economic disparities. Economic disparities between different racial groups must be addressed through policies that promote job creation, fair wages, and equal access to economic opportunities. Improving education. Education is a key factor in achieving the dream of Martin Luther King Jr., and the government must invest in programs to improve educational outcomes for minority students. Promoting health equity. The government must invest in programs that promote health equity and reduce health disparities between different racial groups. Criminal justice reform. Reforms must be made to the criminal justice system to reduce racial disparities and to ensure that all people are treated fairly and with dignity. Promoting diversity and inclusion. All sectors of society must work to promote diversity and inclusion and to ensure that people of all races and ethnicities have an equal opportunity to succeed. Encourage active citizen participation. All citizens have a responsibility to participate in the democratic process and to hold their elected officials accountable for addressing racial disparities and inequality. It's important to note that achieving the dream of Martin Luther King Jr. will require a sustained effort and commitment from all sectors of society, including individuals, organizations, and government. It will also require ongoing reflection and evaluation to ensure that progress is being made and that adjustments are made as needed.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a dream deferred. Yes, that's what I call my video, a dream deferred, because the speech that Martin Luther King gave back in 1963, we're still dealing with the same situation that we dealt with back then. I'm talking about discrimination. I'm talking about the voting rights. I'm talking about police brutality. I'm talking about the criminal justice system. I'm talking about the housing system, poverty. These things, man, we should still be dealing with those. Now, we are the most powerful country in the world, but yet we still deal with those same situations. Back in 1963, they were dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. Now we're dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, but we just don't see it as in your face as it was back then. So what are we going to do about it, America? I'm going to tell you what we need to do. We need to come together as one. Nobody is better than the other one. But the corner phrase from Donald Trump, let's make America great again. But not the way that he was trying to make it. I know a lot of people are Donald Trump fans, but he was talking about a certain group of people. I'm talking about all Americans. We have to come together if we want to make Dr. Martin Luther King's dream come true, or are we going to turn his dream into a nightmare? Let the man on the street know down in the comments below what you think about what I said. You don't have to agree with me. We can agree to disagree. And that's how we can change things. We got to have that dialogue. But if we don't have that dialogue, things going to stay the same. And with that,